I'm gonna just review this little saying here that comes from the Bible, Matthew 12:36, and the reason I want to touch on this again is because this is talking about linear time, where it says, "I tell you, on the day of judgment, men will render account of every careless word they utter."
He said he didn't get a vote.
Kind of important. Because that's definitely talking about linear time. There's no question. So that's assuming that we are looking at and focused on a linear track. The day of judgment. How can a day come where you're going to give an account of something unless you're on a linear track?
Yep.
Right?
Right.
Everything's a yogurt in that case except for the orange pineapple.
Okay. So that's a good point for us to kind of hang on to. In terms of human experience, we definitely are experiencing things sequentially. Some might ask, if this is so, then why does it seem that the entire world is blind to it? Talking about giving account at the end, and at the end, here's an ending. This is kind of an ending here. Ending. Of course, in a nonlinear field, there never is any ending. But in terms of our physical incarnation, we're all going to have some point where we take our last breath with this body. Whether it's today, tomorrow, 10 years. Let's say they come up and really do some miraculous things with medicine and we live another 100 years. Still, you're going to take that last breath at some point. Right? So there is going to be an ending from the physical. Has to be. I would reply to that, although the premise is simple, actualizing and experiencing of it is another matter. Our brother Jesus spoke many times of having the eyes to see. In this world, confusion derives from looking at things through the eyes of man instead of the eyes of spirit. The eyes of man are based on illusion. Perception stemming from judgment. If we go back to the beginning and we see the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and we look at the world through those judgmental eyes, you're going to get an erroneous picture. And everyone's going to be unique. They're going to be unique, they may be similar, we could all come to some similar conclusions if we throw the same picture for us to look at. We can agree on certain attributes, but we'll also have a very unique way of interpreting, because we all have a unique background, we all have a unique brain that we've been given. Not everyone's works exactly the same way. Some can calculate things better than someone else, some can spell, I can't really spell too well. But everybody has a unique way of seeing. And we've been given a unique way of seeing for various purposes. We all have certain gifts, we all have certain adversities that we deal with. And they're uniquely ours, for a reason. The eyes of man are based on illusion, perception stemming from judgment, and the eyes of spirit are based on reality. Witness to love without judgment. Okay, let's just look at that for a second. Witness to love without judgment. So here, this is definitely the human ego vision. Linear time. Now, spiritual is nonlinear. I know we talked about this over and over and over again. I like to go over and over and over, and because it's a very, very hard thing for the human mind to accept. We can intellectualize it, but we really have a difficult time staying centered and focused in a non-linear field. It's very, very hard for us as human beings because it goes against the nature of the mind. It goes against the nature of the workings of a brain. You know, a non-linear view with a past, present, and the future. All are now. Wow. Option A, option B. Door number 1 or door number 2. Remember that thing? Let's make a deal. Which door do you want? Which door would you like? Would you like door number 1, where we have a beginning, middle, and end? Or would you like door number 2, where you don't have these restrictions? Christ talked about our treasure. Obviously, our treasure, as it's applied to door number 1, would be a different treasure than door number 2. Right? Door number 2 would not have an attachment to something that's going to be gone, or something that exists with limitations. It's a whole different picture. What's important to man, what's important to sustain our existence in a limited dimension, is not going to have the same value in this experience. Can't. All of these dimensions of time and space are available here without the limits. This is God's view. This is spiritual. This is what we're going to call love, agape love. Is that it? Mm-hmm. Hey, look, getting good. Agape love. Agape love would be what's experienced on the lower half, door number 2. Remember Einstein, I want to know how God thinks the rest of the details. All the details belong up here. The details belong to an intellectual thinking mind. Now, in the Bible, there's something here that's going to kind of reinforce this thought. It's in the 1 Corinthians. Say you brought the Bible, because most of the time I just say it's there, but you know, I'm not gonna. This time, you know what I did? I actually took the Bible, the New Testament, and I got it in my Word now, my word processor. So when I want something, I can actually look up a word and let it find it for me.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it only took me hours to put this in there. But now I can find things. I should have done that before I wrote the book, because you can't believe how many hours I spent trying to find a passage that I remembered from somewhere, and then I had to find it to put it in the book. Now that I'm all done with this, I actually did that. So, oh yeah. But anyway, it says this: let no man deceive himself. If any among you seems to be wise in this world, let him become a fool, that he may be wise. Okay? Well, what's this talking about? Wise here is a different wise than the wise here. In other words, we can be very, very shrewd, intelligent, sometimes conniving in the world. When we want to orchestrate an event, when we want to bring something about, we can manipulate things. And this is what I talk about with the big secret. The big secret, the law of attraction. focus on this and you can bring that change about. Okay, fine, we can. Every one of us has done this to some degree. We know how to manipulate things in this world. We sometimes manipulate people. We play with people, right? So, being wise to the world is not necessarily an attribute to our spiritual being. Sometimes it can get in the way of our spiritual being. There are many, many times, most of the time, almost always. Almost always. But anyway.
So are we supposed to be like the retarded boy that came to my window, at the gas station last night? I mean, are we supposed to be, is that an enlightened soul? I mean,
well, let me say this. Let me say the retarded boy who came to your window may be an enlightened soul. Then again, Einstein may have been an enlightened soul.
Yeah.
Okay? What you do is going to be guided by spirit when you become enlightened. You may be doing the exact same things that you would be doing from the sleeping state, but you're going to do it from a whole different level of consciousness. You're going to do it from a whole different vantage point. You're going to do it with a whole different agenda. You're doing it for a different reason. The motivation behind the act is going to be the determinant whether it's from an enlightened state or not an enlightened state. Right? Am I guided because this is my treasure? My treasure is, I want more of this, I want that. Or, Spirit has said to me, why don't you do this? Why don't you share that? Why don't you help there? You see, where it's coming from, where the originating energy came from is the determinant whether I'm enlightened or not. Okay? And I can't tell you that person's enlightened and that one's not. I don't know the motivation behind it. No, it's not my business. I don't want to know this person's motivation. I want to know my motivation. I want to stay focused on my intent. I want to hang on to my treasure, because the moment I am overly concerned with somebody else, I lose myself.
Did you just get an email talking about, it was awesome, really. It's a cartoon, but it's for adults, and it explains our banking system.
No, I didn't get it. No,
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't get it. I'll have to talk to Bob. I heard that Bob sent it to you, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's awesome for educating on how we're falling apart, essentially.
Well, I got a pretty good idea why we're falling apart and how we're falling apart and what's going on and the manipulation that's behind things and so on and so on. I'd like to know.
Explains our banking system? Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that.
Give me your email address and I'll forward it to you. But the point is, after watching that, I was extremely fearful. And it hit me. I'm going, where am I at? And I was thinking this. You talked about the boy that came to your window. I don't know if he was enlightened or not, but I do know I wasn't very enlightened as I was watching that. I'm glad I got it. It was a great education. And there's a whole bunch more attached to it. I just haven't had time to watch because it's 42 minutes long, that initial one. But the point is, it doesn't matter if it's our president, or I get a kick out of right now, Prince Harry. He just got put on a naval ship for the next 2 months or something, swabbing decks and learning all about, what all a sailor does. And, he just finished fighting in Iraq with the bang, 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 and I'm going, I wonder how enlightened he is, and all this more stuff. But my point, the point is, though, as far as being enlightened or not, it doesn't matter.
Well, the point is,
That's your email? Okay.
and I think it's very, very helpful to remember what Mother Teresa said. In the end, you're going to find out it wasn't about you and them, but about you and God. If you wish to experience true enlightenment for self, which that's the ultimate objective, I believe, in the end for all, is to awaken to the bigger picture. You can't can't stay centered and focused on unconditional love, which is what it would require to stay in that mindset, when you have an attachment to looking at the world and worried about this one or that one or that one. You lose yourself every time you look at that. The truth of the matter is, both of those are going to continue. There will be those who are choosing not to see, and there are those who are choosing to see. But you can't allow that to alter what you're choosing. Your choice is your choice. Live your reality. Don't worry about the other person. When you worry about the other person, you lose your ability to stay centered for yourself.
You're right.
It's always going to work that way. Always. 100% of the time. Remember what causes us to choose door number 1 over door number 2. There's one simple thing that will cause you to move here every single time. Judgment. Judgment, you judge anything or anyone, boom, you're instantly here. Instantly. Every time you judge something. Agape love, I would define as awareness without an attachment. To form. So awareness without an attachment to form. So in that moment, what would we be doing?
Without attachment to outcomes, I don't think we.
Or even form. Even form. Form. Don't go to the outcome.
What does form mean as opposed to outcome?
Well, outcome would mean that we're looking towards an ending or another or a something that's going to be a result of this.
Right.
So we're taking it now into linear time, aren't we?
Right.
Right. So if we're
Abstractly, it becomes the form.
abstractly, it would become the form. But if we're looking at something, we are here. Can we be here? Can we be here without an attachment to the next moment? At the very beginning, when we clear our minds, and we imagine God as being the summation of the whole. We imagine God as being omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent. We see God as being the summation of the whole. And you experience just being with that. What do you need from there?
I'm very well. How are you? Very well.
What's necessary? What would you have to have from that moment? Nothing. You can be one with that. Could you be one with God? In other words, can we be one with God? Yeah. Experientially, we can do it. We just did it. Even if it was for a nanosecond, you just did it. You just experienced God. You don't need anything. You don't have to have a desired outcome. You don't need an agenda. You're there. Now, once you're there, Spirit will guide you how to interact in the moment. Now, many of us say, well, I don't know if I can trust Spirit. You know, I know my mind. I know how to rationalize things, how to interpret things. I know I've depended on myself, and I'm pretty good at depending on myself, so that's the way we always go, for the most part. But to just be and let Spirit guide us? Wait a minute. That doesn't feel right.
So as soon as we judge anything, we lose our centered awareness. And as soon as and so we can be aware of situations, or we need to be aware of the now moment and situation, and not be attached to how it has to come out or how it has to be. Again, I'm back to without attachment to form.
So this is,
I guess attachment to form just is all encompassing. It doesn't have to be any certain way, any certain outcome, any certain thing.
any man who seems to be wise to the world, let him become a fool. Now, what you just described, pretty damn foolish to the average person, wouldn't it be? Well, what do you mean you don't know what this moment means? What do you mean you don't know what to do?
Because most of us put on a facade that we always know. We know the answer. We know what's right. We know what's wrong. We know how to solve the problem, how to act.
Sure. Ego always knows.
Ego knows everything.
Ego knows everything. Ego knows the proper thing to do every time.
So that's ego.
That would definitely be ego.
But you don't learn, because remember when I asked you, when I learned from you, I said, teach me. I said, if you always think you know the answer, you're not going to learn anything.
Well, of course not. No. And this is one of the things where Einstein said you can't correct a problem with the same mindset that created the problem. As long as ego is of the mindset that it knows, then there is no room for growth. The moment you allow yourself to just be, then you are interacting with creation rather than reacting to creation. And later we're going to get into that. I didn't mean to jump this deep into where we're going. Somehow we do this.
You just be, and you accept what's going on, and you observe and you interact, but you don't have to react, and you don't have to judge, and you don't have to be attached to an outcome.
This is what the rebirthing was meant to be. And this is exactly why Jesus said, someone slaps this cheek, you don't react, you turn the other cheek. Well, it's very difficult to turn that cheek after somebody just slapped this one. You know, it really is. And what he was really trying to help us see was you can react or you can interact. Interact means, hey, I'm awake. You may not be awake because you just slapped me. Hey, but I'm not going to allow you to suck me back in again. I'm going to maintain who I am. I'm going to honor and recognize the divine in you, even though you don't see it, even though you're asleep. You're not going to catch me. You're not going to get me. That's why the Bible says, don't fear the man who can kill the body, but fear the man who can kill the body and leave you in hell. Hell is that. Hell is being caught, being dragged back in. Going from, once you've found this treasure, you've opened door number 2, someone sucks you back into this door, pulls you right back in again. Right? We go from here to here. Now we all do this. It's part of the game of this world.
So if we could interact and observe and accept and be detached and accepting, we probably wouldn't get upset.
Exactly.
Would we?
Exactly right.
And then that's a healthier way to be for the body and spirit and everyone, all things involved.
Or another way of looking at it is how my mother told me when I had this discussion with her back in 2000. She said to me, if I acted the way you're talking about, if I lived how you're talking about living, she says, I would be perfect and I wouldn't need to be here. Duh. Yeah, exactly. Do you remember when Christ said to that one follower? The guy said, hey, I followed the commandments, I'm good, I did this since my youth, I've always been good, I followed everything. Now what's left? What did Jesus say? Hey, sell all that you have, go do this, and be perfect. Well, wait a minute. Can we be perfect? When you are interacting, you are, in fact, experiencing the now. You're experiencing the now. Now, in the now, the past, the present, and the future. Yep, all the way, take a right, and another right. Nope, not, there you go, take a right, that way. There you go. When we are in the now moment, the past, the present, and the future exist as one. Linear time is not a restriction, right? not a restriction in terms of the now moment. So, that being said, did God create spiritual beings, meaning our core essence? Did God create spiritual beings imperfect or perfect?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, I agree. Created perfect. Some people think they're evolving to a point where they're going to become perfected. Right? That's evolution. Okay. Well, if we can go into the now moment, do we have to become perfect? No.
But you have to get into that now moment.
You have to get into that now moment. You got to get into that vibration. You got to get into that frequency. I know we've all had moments of this. Sometimes it's difficult to stay there. You will be tried. You will be tested. Guaranteed. That's why the Bible says your treasure is going to be tested in the fire. What the hell is that talking about? It's talking about you're going to walk down the street and someone's going to flick you off, or somebody's going to cut you off in traffic, or somebody's going to come in, or whatever. You're going to be challenged. It's going to happen. But when you can overcome that challenge, you maintain your peace. No one can take your peace from you, but you can give it away quite easily. No, you can succumb very, very easy. We all do. It's the human nature in us. Forgive me, I'm only human. No, yeah, no. The human side has got a lot of faults. The spirit was created perfect. You don't have to create your perfection. See, this is where we have to come to grips with things. That God created us perfect. We're still perfect. We'll always be perfect. But as a human being, we got a long way to go. The human will never become perfect. The human. But you must remember who you really are. You have to decide who you are. Are you a human being or are you a spirit? If you're a human being, you got a long way to go. If you're a spirit, you're already there. So now we look and we say, well, what are we doing in the world? We're practicing until we can maintain our spiritual view. Agape love. We can believe that or not. But I can tell you this. If you practice non-judgment, you will change the experiences you have on a day-to-day basis. And I know we all would agree with that we've done this. When you judge somebody, something inside you feels a little uneasy. Right? I mean, I'm not talking about what you're judging. Just judge. I don't care what. You judge somebody, you feel a little uneasy. And that uneasiness will eat at you as long as you hold on to the judgment. Oh no, there's that person again. Oh no. I don't want to see that one. No. And you feel the stomach twist and all these things. But if you could let it go, stay so focused in the now that the past does not become a part of this moment. What do you know about that person now? You don't know anything about them. Everything that you knew is gone. Unless you bring it in. You know, oh yeah, I remember last week they did this and that. Yeah.
Door number one.
Door number one. That's it.
But you know, when you come to the now moment, you bring your past with you.
In the now moment, you wouldn't bring your past with you. No, in the now moment, if you're truly in the now moment,
Together as one.
in the now moment, you would be so centered that the past would not be a part. Linear time dissolves in the now moment.
Well, let me tell you what happened. We had a medical emergency, and that's when I grew up going to emergency rooms. My grandfather and my father were heart and lung surgeons. And so it was just like, okay, just calm down. Somebody's crying. That crying child means it's better to have a crying child than a silent child. Get ice, go to the hospital, don't need ambulance, boom, don't get causing the drama. So my past helped me how to handle that situation.
Yeah, and that's true. And let me say, what I'm talking about here, I'm talking about, this is the final transition. This is the awakened state. This is enlightenment. When you are so centered in this now moment that your past is not a contributing factor as to rationalizing or determining this moment. What you just described to me was, yes, in terms of a linear thinking mind, our past is definitely going to be a part of this moment, no question. And we grow through experiences as human beings. As spirit, it's a different ballgame. As spirit, I'm not relying on my intellect anymore. I'm letting spirit tell me what to do. I'm now a conduit for information, for verbiage, for action. I'm a conduit and spirit's moving through me. That's a different experience altogether than me thinking about what to do. Yes, as a human being, we in terms of a linear track, we are growing spiritually day to day from human perspective. We're having moments where we may get a glimmer of reality. That's what the Course in Miracles calls the miracle. I had a miracle. I had a moment of clarity where I stopped judging. I let go for a moment, and all of that resentment and that anger that I had for Bill over there, I can now let go. And now I see Bill as a perfect creation of God. Wow. But as long as I hang on to my judgments about it, as long as I take the past into this moment, I can't experience Bill's perfection. Because that son of a bitch, he did this and that, and I'll never forgive him. I'll never forget. You know? And that's why I look at the bumper stickers that I saw right after 9/11. 9/11, we'll never forget. Oh, please. What a thing to put out there. Why don't we say this? Why don't we let the past go? Why don't we let everything go? Why don't we open our hearts and our minds, and why don't we just say, oh, let's experience love. Let's clear the slate. Well, that's not easy for us to do, but ultimately that is what we've all come into this dimension to experience. At this lifetime or some other, you know, if we get it now, great. If we don't get it now, well, then we're going to be having more of the same.
Yeah, but if you thought that way after 9/11, you weren't being very patriotic.
No, you're right. I wasn't being patriotic at all. As a matter of fact, like I said, the bumper stickers, every time I go down the street and I say, God bless America, God bless America. And why don't we change something and say, God bless humanity?
Well, instead of saying we'll never forget, we should say we're going to learn from this and grow.
Well, yeah. Why don't we grow? Why don't we grow spiritually? Why don't we learn to love rather than fear? Why don't we learn to interact rather than react? You know, why don't we let God decide our next move rather than a human mind? Rather than dropping a bomb, let's drop some food. You know, different things like that. I mean, there are ways that we could. So anyway, this dichotomy.
You have that on?
I do have it on.
Okay.
I think. I'll let you know at the end. So we were talking about the difference between linear time and the eternal moment of now, where of course, you know, two different states. And the dichotomy, this dichotomy will remain as long as ego, the human mind, believes that it is in charge of your experiences. In order to move beyond this confusion, you must constantly remind yourself that your real or true nature is not the human mind, but something far greater and much more powerful. I am referring to a consciousness that exists beyond time and space. That's where I keep saying, in this now moment, no one that God created is not perfect. Everyone that God created is perfect. God created perfection. That perfection has always remained and will always remain. That's why the Course in Miracles says, that which is real, this bottom part, door number 2, that which is real cannot be threatened. Your perfection cannot be threatened. The spirit within that perfect essence, that perfect spark, that divine part of self that God created out of itself is perfect. No one and nothing can touch that. That which is real cannot be threatened. That which is unreal, the judgmental mind, all of the thoughts, the good and the bad, all the human experience, that which is unreal does not exist. Therein lies the peace of God. That's what the Course is basically saying. And then it goes on to teach us how to have this experience of living from the awakened state. So I say, once we finish, then we'll get into the Course in Miracles a little bit. I don't want to go through the whole book. We're going to do just a section for the teachers. Because by the time we're done, you're going to have an understanding of creation sufficient enough. That's good enough. I mean, if you want to go somewhere and do the beginning of the book and go through it, God bless you. But it takes a long time. It really does. But the main point, and I said this when I first heard the Course, I said, if you understood what it's really saying at the very beginning, you don't need the book. If you understood that it's saying that which is real cannot be threatened, your divine self, the spirit within, has never left you. God has never left us. We've left God consciously. We tune out. It's like, I don't want to hear it. No, I got my agenda. And as long as we have our agenda, we're not hearing spirit. You can't serve two masters. That's one thing that the Bible does say, and it's true. I cannot possibly be walking through door number 1 and having my human ego experience, at the same time be walking through door number 2. If you imagine going this way, I can't be going this way and going that way simultaneously. I can turn around and go this way, and then I can turn around back and go this way, and I can go back and forth, and we do this quite a bit. We're pretty good at vacillating in and out of consciousness. That's why Paul said, I die on a daily basis, because Paul was doing that. Paul was vacillating between his perfected spiritual self. He was from the now moment back into his ego judgmental mind. Then back and forth. We do that. It's part of the game. Doesn't have to be. This is why I say over and over and over again, no one, and nothing. Satan isn't out there pulling your strings. There is nothing in creation that can control you. There's a lot that can influence you. You can buy into anything. You can listen to anybody. Oh, that sounds good. Let me go play over here for a while. No. Let me go over here. Let me go here. This one sounds good. That one sounds... And we get influenced by each other. But no one can control you. You're in charge of you. And until we recognize that we're in charge, we're not going to take charge. Now we said all this, let's erase this for a moment and let's just touch on that point because it's kind of important. Here we are. Now, let's just say here, we're all here. This is representing us all individually. Where do we go? What do we experience? We can experience true reality, or the Course would say an illusion. True reality is love. God. God is love. The illusion, fear. That's how the Course would say it. You get a choice. I can experience love, or I can experience fear. Love is real, fear is an illusion. Fear comes in degrees. I'm going to put up here agape love again. Agape love. This, no degrees. Now the Course would say this. to experience reality, it's an all or nothing deal. I'm 100% in agreement with the Course when it says that. It's an all or nothing. Either you're experiencing agape love, or you're experiencing part of an illusion. The Bible says God is that which never changes. Well, wait a minute. So God's not growing. The vibration of God doesn't change. Your perfection doesn't change. But what will change? Illusions will change. Fears will change. We can get more scared. We can be a little scared. And whoa, did you see? They put up orange. Everybody feeling scared now? You know, we can incite each other into fearful reactions. Oh my God, they're gonna blow us up. Holy shit, oh, drop a bomb on them before they get us. You know, we do this. We do this to each other. Fear is contagious. But it's also part of an illusion. That's the beauty. That's why the Course says, here's the beauty. It's not real. So guess what? When you let it go, you experience perfection. You experience God. You experience agape love. How? Now who's in charge? Satan. Ooh, Satan's not in charge. You are. I am. I remember Mary that helped me edit my first book. One of her favorite things was, well, two things she used to say all the time was, one when she was in her human ego mind, she'd say, you can't get there from here, you got to get closer first. Because, you know, I'd always be trying to bring it to the awakened state, and she wanted to go through the steps. You got to get closer, you can't just make this leap. Well, it may be true that the average person wants more experiences before they feel comfortable accepting. Okay, fine. It doesn't change the reality that it already exists. Of course, also says this: if you want to understand an experience totally, then you have to understand totality. Make sense? You want to understand the whole picture, you got to understand the whole picture. Well, what is the whole picture? There's love and fear. Simple. Within the fear, there's degrees. The other thing, we used to say all the time, you're in charge of you. To other people. You're in charge of you, you're in charge of you. It's true. You're in charge of you. God gave you a big job. You. That's it. Not them. You don't have to worry about fixing them. Take care of you. You take care of you, I'll take care of me, and the world will take care of itself. Try to fix them, you're going to lose yourself. If you take care of you, you are the light of the world. You are the Christ in this world. And that's what Christ really, Jesus came to teach man, was for us to be the light of the world through living agape love in every moment. Now, you don't have to accept that, but I guarantee you, the more you practice it, the more you'll find the reality that it's true. And you can always go back to sleep. Although this state is unfamiliar to almost all people living consciously, it is actually your authentic nature. It awaits your discovery. It is only after such a discovery that the fullness of life is realized. And until such time that you discover and explore the inner realms of creation, where you will be awakened to your higher self, you will continue to experience only a minuscule piece of what is. Now, we're all doing that. We're all experiencing minuscule piece of our infinite self. And this is why I'm gonna put this back again about the treasure. This is what Jesus meant. Treasure. What's your treasure?
I'm sitting here with that word in my mind. I don't even know why.
You don't know why? Well, because that's what we're focusing on here tonight. We're focusing on treasure. What is the treasure? What's our objective? It's either our human ego. It's tied to our human ego, or it's tied to our spiritual divine self.
Well, what I was reading today was that you can walk back and forth over this treasure, not even know it's below your feet.
Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, we're talking always about the now, right? Where is our treasure? When do we see it? You know, it's when we accept. It's not like it's coming. See, this is where our concept of linear time is always going to be an obstacle for us. I remember when I used to go to this one Course in Miracle group, and the favorite expression out of the whole group, almost in unison, would say, "In the end, we're all going to get it." Wait a minute. You're still thinking in terms of linear. You'll never get it. Because the end will never come in terms of linear time. It's infinite. It goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. Drop this body, move to another dimension, it goes and goes and goes. Drop that body, go to another, it goes and goes, and it goes forever. Now always is. Now always is. Always remember, now always is. When you recognize now always is, this is why Jesus, 2,000 years ago, they asked Jesus, look, you're talking about the end, you're talking about heaven, all that stuff. When's it coming? How did he respond? In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus said, that which you seek already exists. You just don't see it. Of course it already exists. How can it not? I'm always reminded, and I've shared this a few times, but I'm going to share it for the camera. Tesla, Nikolai Tesla, great inventor. Invented more things than Edison, so they say. He had more, matter of fact, modern electricity that we see today. Alternating currents, that was Tesla. Tesla invented all kinds of things. The generator, I think, is something that Tesla invented. Tesla coil, the electric motor, Tesla's. I mean, it goes on and on and on. But Tesla said something that was very, very interesting. Tesla said that there were times when he would get a picture of something already completed, in its completed form, and he would see a schematic or a detailed drawing of all the parts that are necessary to make this function. And when he built something from this picture that was already done, it worked perfectly. Why? It already exists. What doesn't already exist in the now moment, with the past, the present, and the future, are available to us. Well, from a human perspective, not many of us are tuned into a frequency that will give us these kind of pictures.
Ghost in a bottle.
Do what?
I said somebody invented, it was just recently on the internet, where you could buy a ghost in a bottle with one. So why didn't I think of that? It already existed. It already existed.
Pet rocks. That guy made a fortune. What a great idea. Pet rocks. Pet rocks. Yeah. Easy to take care of. They don't cry. They don't get you into trouble. Anyway, yeah. It is only after such discovery that the fullness of life is realized, and until such time that you discover and explore the inner realms of creation, where you'll be awakened to your higher self, you will always continue to experience only this minuscule piece of what is. Now, I repeated that partly because I forgot where I left off, and second, because it's an important point. It really, truly is. I've been talking about this for years, and I know there are very few people that resonate with it at this moment. More and more are starting to move to it. Linear time. Linear time will get in the way of your experiencing the fullness of the true self. every single time. The belief in linear time. Because the past has to be a part of this moment in order for you to make sense of this moment from a human perspective. As long as you're playing that game, that's door number one. As long as you're playing that game, you will always have a human experience over a spiritual experience.
You know what I think about is when Jesus said to be like a child to enter the kingdom of heaven. They
Yes.
don't remember what they had for breakfast.
Yes, yes, yes,
They don't
yes.
live in the past. They can't remember it. They live so much
They're in a
this
moment.
that they want that toy now. They don't think it'll ever come again. You know, they are the teachers of where to be in the now. I
Absolutely.
watch my kids all the time to learn that.
They're playing. What time is it? I don't know what time it is. You're calling up for supper. What is supper? You know, I'm busy. They're so in tuned in that moment. They don't know it's supper time. They don't know what they were supposed to do yesterday or tomorrow. They're focused on the now. Exactly. And that's what Christ meant. You have to become like the child. You have to be empty.
Well, they trust the dinner will be
Trust.
there. They
Trust,
that the
trust,
house
trust.
will be there. They don't care about those things. It's absolute, unadulterated trust.
Trust. And this is exactly the same level that we have to move ourselves to if we're to experience the true spiritual nature within us. Absolutely right. Because other than that, what's happening? My mind will not allow me to go here. My mind will not allow me to interact without some form of judgment. Every one of us is good at judging.
You know what gets in my way is brain chatter. I caught myself today saying this song about 30 times over my head, and I went, wait, quit. You know, it's like I realized that tape was playing in the background, and most of us don't even know we're even doing it. And if you get in touch with that brain chatter, I think you're mountains.
You know, when you talk to people and when I hear you speak, you are aware of things that a lot of people are just oblivious to. And that's a major step in terms of moving beyond it, because you can't go beyond something that you don't know even exists. And this is where the knowledge, the understanding of the mechanics, that to me, this is what this book is about. This is about mechanics of creation. How does it work? How does thought work? Hang on one second. There was something I wrote the other night in my meditation.
So I don't have to move. I mean, let's see. Thank you.
I think pretty much this book is saying the same thing, and I've said it many times, but I was meditating, and I actually got out of the meditation and wrote this down, and then afterwards I said, wait a minute, I already said all this, but anyway, this is what it was. God is a formless consciousness that experiences itself through thought. Okay? All physical manifestation is thought expressed as energy at different frequencies. Okay? Now this is creation now. Energy and matter, i.e. anything physical, are interchangeable. Modern physics talks
and matter are
interchangeable. Modern physics says you can't create or destroy energy, but you can change its form.
Matter
Okay.
is energy.
Nothing in the physical world could exist if it didn't have their home in the mind of God. This is why the Bible says we live, breathe, and have our being in the body of God. God is the consciousness which all is derived out of. And not only derived out of, but still is one with. There is no real separation here. There is a separation in our belief systems, in our own minds, but that belief system is an illusion, which disappears when you let it go. Hang on to it, you can't experience anything other than that which you're hanging on to. This is what I believe in. You can't tell me anything other than this. I've had many people tell me, you're not, this is all I believe, this is it, and I don't want to hear anymore. Good for you. Stay there.
Knock yourself out.
Knock yourself out. Have a good time. Know this. You can experience more if you let go. If you don't let go, you can't experience more. It's simple.
That last line again, please.
Nothing in the physical world could exist if it didn't have a home in the mind of God.
Where do we co-create at? What level are we co-creating? Because I'm just thinking
Okay.
about the ugly things on earth and I'm judging that. But
Right.
in the mind of God,
Now listen to what the Course in Miracles would say. The Course in Miracles would say that which we call co-creating is an illusion. Okay? In other words, huh?
good for them.
No, and I agree with him. I say this, God would not create anything that is not based on agape love.
Right.
Okay?
There's my-
God would not create it. Does that mean you can't, it's impossible for you to experience something that is not real? See, because you can experience it doesn't give it validity and make it real, it just means you had an experience. You had a nightmare, you had an illusion. Our fears are illusory.
So is the physical world real or unreal?
Well, what God created is real. What man experiences is uniquely theirs. They may be experience reality or an illusion.
But is the physical world to you an illusion or reality?
Well, let me ask you what you mean by real, because I said this in my book. I said all of creation as we experience it as humans is an illusion. It's not true in terms of ultimate reality, and in terms of ultimate reality, you are a spiritual being that is not only capable, but is also already experiencing something far greater than anything here. Okay? So in that sense, I'd call this an illusion. I would call this struggle an illusion. Not that Einstein talked about this, and he said, talking about linear time, and he said the past, the present, and the future is nothing but an optical delusion of consciousness, albeit a persistent one. It's persistent. And we are stuck with it, and we're dealing with it over and over and over and over, which seems to give it validity. And you can be in agreement with the majority of the people in the world, and because they agree, we agree it's real. What do you mean it's not real? I believe it's real. Well, you me too, me too. Well, the majority believe it's real. Oh, must be real. Everybody else says it is. You know what? No. No. Christ came here to teach man, look, this is not your home. Don't look at it as your home. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't be experiencing your life while you're here. You could be experiencing agape love in this dimension. Sure you could. But you have to be in the world and not of the world. You have to move yourself to a level of consciousness where Christ was teaching men to move to. Right? Be in the world, not of the world. Love thy neighbor as thyself. But forsake your family. Whoa, wait a minute. I can't forsake my family. Well, wait a minute. He didn't mean abandon your family. He meant love the starving person in Africa as much as you love your own child. Because in reality, we're all equal to God. Love that person equal to your own flesh and blood. Now you'll understand real love. Now you'll understand God. Now you'll experience God. Now you become enlightened. Don't go there, and you're going to experience what you're holding on to, a limited view, a minuscule piece of something which is infinite. You'll experience separation because you're creating it right here. Right? We experience it. We live within our own minds. We live our own judgments. That's why Jesus said, you're going to give account of even your idle thoughts. Every one of us is experiencing our thoughts and our beliefs to the exact degree we hang on to them. I can't make anybody else see something they don't want to see, nor can anyone make me see something they want me to see. I can say, well, I agree with you, now let's see if we see something together. But no one controls anybody else. But you do control you. And later we're going to get into the anatomy of the soul and how you're in charge. Most of us believe we have free will. What does free will mean? Who's making the decisions? Things don't happen by accident. Everything's perfectly orchestrated. Creation is finely tuned to our every whim. Even if it's based in the illusion. Course in Miracles again says, there are two complete thought systems. One is real, one is unreal. Just because it's unreal doesn't mean you can't have struggle, pain, suffering, all of the obstacles and all of the discomfort. Just like our fears. I could think about, oh, I got a toothache. I break out in a sweat. I don't want to go to the dentist. I hate those needles. And I'm sweating, and and I'm having this experience. And then I get there, and it gives me gas, and I went to sleep, and I don't feel anything. The idea was I created all this anguish and all this anxious feeling and all this pain and suffering for what? Something that didn't even come about. But in that moment, I had a real experience. Went away the second I let go. No one gives us our fears. We create our fears. We create our fears based upon our attachment to the physical realm, based upon our limited view. Somebody's going to attack this body. It's the only one I got to defend it. Or I can look at it. I'm not this body. Now I understand the crucifixion. Jesus was being nailed to the cross. Hey, you can take my body. You can't kill me. You can't touch me. I'm spirit. I'm forever. I'm infinite. That's what he came here to show us. Not to die so that you can live a sinful life and go to heaven. Because, thank you, Jesus, I'm saved. No. No. Anyway, let me just finish up this one little thing here, and then we're gonna call it. The difference between these states of consciousness is so great that Jesus remarked upon it in the Gospel of Thomas, in Thomas 3. When you know yourselves, then you will be known. And you will know that you are the sons of the living Father. You are the sons of the living Father. God being consciousness, your consciousness, you are sons of the living Father. God is alive. Of course God's alive. And you're it. Tag, you're it. Father. But if you do not know yourselves, then you are in poverty and you